Let's start with what has to be the ultimate football paradox. Picture this. It's 2017, and Liverpool Football Club hands Roma £34 million for a winger that Chelsea had, quite frankly, completely given up on. Now, over the next 9 years, that player, Mohamed Salah, becomes the undisputed greatest Premier League player of his generation. I mean, we were talking 255 goals, a Champions League trophy, 2 Premier League titles. He absolutely cements himself as an Anfield legend. And then, in May of 2026, Liverpool inexplicably lets him walk away for exactly £0. He literally just walked out the door for free. To anyone on the outside, this just makes absolutely no sense.
Right? £0. When a club records a £0 return on literally its most prized asset, your immediate assumption is that someone in the boardroom made a catastrophic error. Seriously, how on earth do you let a player of that immense generational caliber leave for absolutely nothing? You think someone made a massive miscalculation. But I am here to tell you that Salah leaving for nothing wasn't a failure at all. Actually, it was the Fenway Sports Group, or FSG, machine working exactly as it was designed to. It was a cold, perfectly calculated mathematical decision.
And we know for a fact it was calculated because of one wildly jarring contrast. Just 6 months before letting Salah walk, these exact same owners spent an English Premier League record of £450 million in a single summer transfer window. I mean, they were dropping massive, eye-watering fees across the board. That includes a staggering £125 million for Alexander Isak alone. So you really have to ask yourself, how does an ownership group spend almost £500 million in one window and then just let their biggest star leave for free in the next?
Well, you'll want to stick around because later in this explainer, we are going to reveal the one-sentence FSG golden rule. It's a singular principle that, honestly, every club on earth should probably copy, but almost none actually do. And it perfectly unifies these two completely contradictory financial decisions. But to really understand it, we first need to look at how this incredible machine was built.
Let's flash back to October 2010. Things were bleak. Liverpool were sitting just 9 points above the relegation zone. They were a distressed asset, literally days away from bankruptcy, administration, and complete financial ruin. Then entered John W. Henry and his Fenway Sports Group. They swooped in and rescued the club for £300 million. Now, fast forward 16 years to 2026, Forbes values Liverpool at nearly £5 billion. £5 billion! That makes them the 4th most valuable club on the entire planet, sitting just behind legacy giants like Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Manchester United. They took a club on the brink of collapse and grew it into an absolute financial titan. And they did it using pure analytics and ruthless market discipline.
But here's the kicker. They didn't just grow the balance sheet. They conquered Europe. They actually won the biggest trophies in world football. Think about that incredible night in Madrid, bringing home the Champions League in 2019, then ending the agonizing 30-year drought with the Premier League in 2020, and then doing it again, adding another Premier League crown in 2025, alongside a massive haul of domestic cups. They combined pure profit and elite sporting success in a way that rivals like state-backed Manchester City or the chaotic, free-spending Chelsea under Todd Boehly rarely ever replicate. They proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can win it all without throwing blank checks at every single problem.
So how exactly did they pull off this magic trick? Well, they used a strict 4-step foundational blueprint. This was heavily crafted by their sporting director and chief architect, Michael Edwards. Step 1, identify players the market has completely mispriced. Step 2, buy them for way below what the underlying data says they're actually worth. Step 3, develop them inside an elite coaching structure, build a winning culture, and secure those trophies. And finally, step 4, sell those assets at their absolute peak value. This is exactly how they targeted someone like Andy Robertson from a relegated Hull City for just £8 million and Sadio Mane for £34 million. While all the other clubs were busy chasing high-priced superstars, Liverpool was quietly buying the raw materials everyone else was undervaluing.
And you want to see the ultimate proof of concept for Step 4, that selling at the peak idea? It happened in January 2018. Barcelona were desperate, they just lost Neymar, their pockets were flush with cash, and they were panicking. Liverpool held incredibly firm during negotiations and ended up selling Philippe Coutinho for an astonishing £142 million. And what did they do with that money? They took that massive influx of cash and immediately reinvested $140 million of it into Virgil van Dijk for $75 million and Alisson for $65 million. Let that sink in. They literally sold one player at his absolute peak to completely fund the 2 foundational, transformative defensive pieces that won them the Champions League. It was the model functioning flawlessly.
But even flawless machines have glitches. As hyper-disciplined and highly logical as this machine was, there were two massive errors where the ownership entirely broke their own rules. And one of them, it nearly burned the whole institution to the ground. The first major misstep happened in the summer of 2017. Liverpool just got sloppy. Their pursuit of Virgil van Dijk became very public way before a deal actually existed. Southampton accused them of an illegal approach, which forced Liverpool into a really humiliating public apology. And because they lost control of their rigid process, they had to go back 6 months later and massively overpay, setting a world record £75 million fee for a defender. But look, the second misstep was far, far worse. The 2021 European Super League. FSG signed up for a closed competition, completely abandoning the sporting merit that the club's historic, working-class fan base valued above literally everything else. The fans protested furiously outside Anfield, it forced the whole project to collapse in just 48 hours, and it caused a catastrophic PR disaster that shattered an 11-year relationship of trust.
So how do owners who understand value so intimately make decisions like that? And more importantly, how do they recover? Well, this brings us to the big reveal, the one golden rule that dictates every single transfer FSG makes to fix their squad. Here it is. Never buy a player you cannot sell for a profit. It's that simple. Every single target is evaluated twice. First, as a footballer who can help them win on a Saturday, and second, as a future financial asset who can be liquidated on a Tuesday.
This ruthless principle acts as an immediate, non-negotiable filter for their entire scouting department. It is entirely mechanical. It automatically rules out players aged 29 or older, no exceptions. It rules out handing massive, unsellable wage packets to aging stars. It completely filters out players with a high injury risk, regardless of how transcendent or amazing their talent might be. And above all else, it filters out sentimental signings. Under this model, you do not sign a player for what they have done in the past. You sign them solely for what their future resale value will be on the balance sheet.
To really see this in action, just look at their record-breaking £450 million spend in the summer of 2025. Notice what every single one of these heavily financed players has in common. Alexander Isak, age 25. Florian Wirtz, 22. Hugo Ekitike, 23. Milos Kerkez, 21. They broke the bank, absolutely, but they did it exclusively on players in their early 20s. These players inherently possess massive future resale value in the global market. Think about it. If they fail, they can still be sold to recoup costs because they're young. But if they succeed, they can be sold for an even more astronomical profit down the line. Which perfectly resolves that crazy paradox we started this explainer with. By the end of the 2025-2026 season, Mohamed Salah was 33 years old. He was reportedly earning around £25 million a year. His resale value, in the eyes of the global transfer market, was rapidly approaching zero. Giving an unsellable massive new contract to a 33-year-old completely violated the core FSG model. So, mathematically speaking, letting a club legend walk for free wasn't an accident. It wasn't an oversight. Under the strict, unyielding parameters of their spreadsheet, it was literally their only option.
But we have to acknowledge that there is a heavy emotional cost to that kind of cold logic. Sticking strictly to the spreadsheet ultimately led to a collapsed 2025-2026 season. Fans were completely shell-shocked when manager Arne Slot departed at the end of the campaign. And Liverpool didn't just lose Salah for nothing. They also watched Andy Robertson and Ibrahima Konate walk away for a combined transfer fee of exactly £0. This right here is the absolute sharpest criticism of the model. When you run a football club based entirely on contract logic rather than squad chemistry, continuity, and loyalty, you risk letting foundational assets expire just to protect the balance sheet.
This ruthless logic radically alters their historical net spend efficiency too. Historically, if you evaluate trophies won per £100 million spent, Liverpool used to absolutely dominate rivals like Manchester United and Chelsea. I mean, their return on investment was unparalleled in modern football. But their recent £450 million spree completely changes that narrative. They aren't really the scrappy underdogs beating the system on a tight budget anymore. They've transformed their squad into a high-stakes financial bet on a roster of 20-somethings.
And that brings us to a massive breaking development in 2026. FSG now appear to be applying their famous sell-at-peak logic to Liverpool Football Club itself. They've actually confirmed talks for a 49% minority stake sale at a valuation of nearly £5 billion. They bought low at $300 million, they utilized Michael Edwards' data to develop the club into a multi-trophy winning juggernaut, and now they are cashing in at the absolute peak of the market. It is the ultimate execution of their blueprint, just applied to the macro ownership level.
Which leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative question to ponder. By strictly prioritizing financial discipline and asset management over keeping beloved club legends and maintaining squad sentiment, did FSG win the spreadsheet but lose the dressing room? Is treating a football club like a ruthless stock portfolio the ultimate ownership model, or does it eventually strip away the very soul that makes the club worth billions in the first place? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the numbers behind the beautiful game.